Welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast, your weekly dose of strategies and mindset tools to build a business in alignment with your purpose and to get you playing a bigger game. I'm your host, Nicole. Hello, and welcome to the Limitless Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and I'm here by myself today. We're having a solo episode, just you and I, and we're going to be talking about how to read your human design chart for your business. So, meaning, how do you make the human design chart be something more than just interesting information, interesting about, knowing how you're designed? We all get into that. How do you make it more than just a personality test? How do you actually take it and apply it? And now I want to make the differentiation here, because a big question that people get is, what do I do with this information? What do I do with human design? How do I use it is another way. And I certainly get into that as well. I'm always looking at how can I use this? How can I make something out of this? And I'm going to ask you to kind of put that aside a little bit, because you're going to use it, but it's not going to be in the way that you think you're going to use it. And if you go down the rabbit hole because there are absolutely ways, human design can tell you how you sell, what programs would be most aligned and efficient for you. I use the word efficient because I don't like using right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. You have free will. You can do things however you want. However, there's going to be ways that are easier for you. There are going to be things that feel more authentic to you. And as we've talked about before, when you stop trying to be who you're not, who you were not designed to be, when you stop pouring energy into those spaces, then you're free to be who you are. Then you are more potent. You're using the energy that's already there, rather than trying to work out of the things that you think will work for you. So sometimes it can be a little bit of, not a full red herring, but it can be a bit of a distraction and not to your best interests of getting more out of your business. To think about the things like selling out of your centers and, really using the gene keys to map out your branding. They're really useful tools, but what you first need to understand, you need to have a bit of a foundation first. Otherwise you can get really wrapped up in the detail, but it's almost like you're not focusing on the bigger picture first, then you can get into the detail. If you start trying to paint the detail, if you're painting the picture of a person and you're like, I'm going to really get into the color on the shirt here, but you haven't painted the outline yet and you haven't sketched that person yet, the detail is probably not going to be correct. In fact, when you go to outline, it might get in the way because it might have been misinformed. It might not have gone with the entire flow of the project. So that's what I want to take you into here. I want to take you into what's important for you to understand about your chart as it relates to your business. And for me, the most important things are, there's definitely your strategy and authority, your type. These are important things for you to recognize, but we've talked about those on other shows. So we're not going to dive into that part right now. What we are going to talk about is you're going to be operating from your strategy and authority. That goes without saying. So if you're a Manny Gen, you're going to understand that you are a multi-passionate being, that you are probably not where you're going to get stuck. And this is how sorry, I'm breaking this up a little bit here because I'm riffing a little bit. But what you're going to see is that this information, it informs your moment-to-moment decision-making. It allows you to understand where you're getting stuck and why you're getting stuck and how you can back the car up and go down the proper path, rather than getting stuck there trying to make something work because you're caught in your head or you're caught in the way someone told you that it should be. So obviously we're going to start with strategy and authority because they're our biggest buckets. That's our biggest category. So a manifesting generator, you're going to understand that you are a multi-passionate being, So the way that that's going to play out is you might be telling yourself that you can't have all of these projects, or you want to plan it out really far because that feels safer to you. And there's some other things that are really important in your chart, really sub details that'll tell you even whether planning is right for you or not. But those are all things that are not really in alignment with your type. So you're naturally going to get stuck on those. If you're trying to figure out how you do one program and how you have this big 3-year plan for how it's all going to go, and you have your launches all planned out, you will probably find yourself pumping the brakes, and you might not know why. And you'll think that you're stuck, and you'll think that you need another strategy to get out of it. And you'll think that you maybe need more help. You'll throw money at it, or you'll throw effort at it, rather than just realizing that that's just not the way for you, that there's a different way for you. So you're going to be following all of that. Same thing, projectors, you're going to be following a different strategy. You're going to be waiting to be invited to things. And once you are not going to probably look to do very big projects for big, long stretches of time that take a lot of energy. You might be looking at it and saying, I want to have a one-on-one relationship with people because I have that penetrating aura and I can really see into someone else. So a one-on-one coaching relationship with somebody, or a one-on-one partnership with someone, might be the most impactful work you can do and the best use of your time. Or you might do small group programs where you say, I'm going to give people that individual attention in there, but I'm going to leverage my time. So this is how we start to use the overall package of our energy type, because that's how our energy works. It's how the universe plays with us, and it's how we're able to use our energy, like I said, efficiently. Manifestors, you're going to probably want a team, at least a small team, and you're going to be going out there and you're going to be telling people the way that you see things. And you're going to be leading the way. You're not going to be waiting and taking in lots of feedback from other people, because that's not your way. So it's really important for you to understand your type, really understand your type and your authority, how you make those decisions. But what I want to talk to you today about, and what I really want to focus on, is looking at your chart as a whole through the lens of how you work and how you approach your business. So you're obviously going to be looking at the way your energy works as it relates to your type. So sacral beings, you're going to have more information, you're going to have more energy, more energy to do the things that need to get done. You're probably going to want to do a good amount of it yourself. So a big lesson for you might be learning how to delegate and allowing other people to take some of that stuff off your plate, because you're so used to the doing. But it'll be very freeing for you when you can only do the things that work for you, that excite you. You'll get more out of it, and you will be happier, which means you are more magnetic, which means that you are getting more work done in less time. You're getting more product, more results for the work that you do without necessarily doing more work. In fact, you could be doing less work. Projectors, you're going to be approaching things and manifestors, and certainly reflectors. Reflectors are going to be kind of in a category of their own, because they're completely open. And that's what I want to get into a little bit here, is the openness in our chart. We're not meant to work out of. Doesn't mean we can't. It just means it's limited. It means it's variable. It means that the energy in those places are coming through us. They're not sitting there waiting to be used. Whereas the definition in our chart is, that's what we always have access to. So when you come from a productivity standpoint, and there's so many ways that this can be looked at, but we're going to focus on looking at it for your business, of saying, how do I structure my business? And how do I see my strengths as far as what I can offer? other people, my team, how I can do things with the least amount of resistance and the most amount of joy and ease, and be living out of my zone of genius and working out of my zone of genius. So when you look at your chart and you run your chart and you're looking at it, the first thing I want you to notice outside of your type and authority is what's colored in and what's not. What centers in particular, we're going to focus on those for now. What centers are defined, which means they're colored in, and which ones are open? Do you have more open than you do defined, or do you have more defined than you do open? Which is it? And I want you to look at those, and I want you to realize that what the difference between defined and undefined is in our chart, it means that the things that are defined for you, that's the energy you always have. That's the energy that's working inside of you all the time. That flavor of energy, you always have access to it. It is part of what you are here to put out into the world. You're here to give that. You are here to give from your definition. And you are here for your undefined areas, the white areas in your chart. This is where we receive. This is our openness. This is where we are meant to take in others. And they say that the terminology in human design is that this is our greatest capacity for wisdom in our white centers. Now, what does that mean? Because I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh, that sounds great, but what do you mean? It means that you're here, you're going to experience other people's energy through the open centers and the open space in your chart. That's the area where the doors and windows are open. It's the area where that type of energy can penetrate you from other people because the barriers are not there. You don't have your own stockpile of it to say, we don't have room here to take in your stuff. Where we're defined, when we come at it from this purpose standpoint or from the standpoint of looking at it from our business, the defined areas are the areas that we'll be able to speak about. We will be able to give from this place. And in the white areas, the undefined areas, that's where we're meant to receive. So where we fall into not being productive, not getting results, usually comes from us trying to live and give out of our openness. And the analogy that I have for that, the visual that I get for that I give to my people, that kind of, I think, illustrates the point pretty well, is that white space in your chart is where it's like you have a bucket. If you think of that center as a bucket and it has holes in it, and you're pouring energy into that bucket. So if you have an open ego and you're trying to be willful, because the ego is the center of will, determination, drive, material need and drive. All of these energies, these themes, if you try to live out of those, try to teach out of those, try to be driven all the time, live in integrity, and you're telling yourself, I should be in integrity, I should be more driven, I should be pushing, I should just go for it, I should just do it, I want it, I'm going to run on pure desire. Well, if you're open in the ego and you're not following your strategy and authority, and you're trying to be willful, driven, and all of those things because other people told you that was the way, or because you're disappointed in yourself for not having the results that you think you should have by now. So you're trying to live out of this place. You're trying to prove yourself. That's the other huge theme of the ego. You're pouring energy into an area that's full of holes. So this is how you burn out. You pour energy into that space and it just disappears. You don't actually see anything come from it. It's like if you had a hose and all the and there's holes all through it. So you're at the other end. So you're putting effort in, you're pumping water through the end of the hose, and you don't know there's holes in it. You're just like, oh, I'm running the water through this thing. And you run to the other end and you're waiting for the water to come out. And you're like, why is there no water coming out? Or just a little bit? Because there's a leak. This is what an energy leak looks like. This is how it's formed. So when you're looking at your chart from a business standpoint, from a productivity standpoint, I want you to take a look and say, where am I trying to be where I'm open? Where am I trying to push out from this place? Does not mean that you can't be driven. It does not mean that you can't, it doesn't mean you don't have an ego. It doesn't mean that you can't be any of these things. What it does mean is that you need to know the difference between using it in a healthy way, being able to receive in this place, being open in this place where you're not pushing out from it. You are allowing that energy to be there, and you're allowing it to be fed by the other things that are in its vicinity. So another example is the G center, the identity center. When you have the center open, you're not meant to have this rigid, strict sense of identity. You get to play. You get to be whatever you want whenever you're around a different environment. You seamlessly blend in. So in the terms of your business, you get to change your identity and allow it to flow. Now, there's a lot of work out there that talks about having a very core identity for knowing who you are. For you, that's going to look very different. It's going to be more about allowing it to change and flow and be different, and letting that be your guide, being lit up by all the things, knowing when an environment is wrong for you, knowing when an identity now has run its course and it's time for you to shift into something new. Coming at it with enthusiasm for the newness of this next chapter, or for being with this client, or for being in this container, and stepping into whatever is needed for that moment and feels authentic to you. This is how this becomes an art. And this is how, and if you haven't listened to my episode on deconditioning, where we talk about how you clean out these centers so they're in a healthy expression, because once they're in a healthy expression, they're free for you to use. That's how the white ones, that's how you're no longer taking in other people's energy and holding it. You're taking in other people's energy, experiencing it, feeling it, understanding it on such a deep level. This is how we get like the spidey senses, the psychic senses, because we're feeling something. It's not, someone's not telling us something. No, someone isn't telling us about their defined ego, and through our open ego, we're hearing it. No, you're feeling when someone's out of alignment in their ego. You're feeling when someone is out of alignment in their drive. And by you being clean in that center, not feeling like you need to be driven, not feeling like you need to have something to prove, by you being open in that center, you're able to hold space for that person who maybe has a defined ego and it's overactive and it's unhealthy. And you're able to feel into what that person is going through and help them through it in just in your presence. But if you're a coach, this is where your intuition is going to kick in. You're just going to kind of know things about that person and what is or isn't out of alignment for them, what is or is not healthy for them. This is how this becomes something that you master your design. You master feeling it and allowing it to guide you. But when you're reading it for your business, it's really about recognizing, where do I need to clean out the space that's there so that I'm free and open to receive the things I'm asking for? And where do I need to make sure I'm in a healthy expression of the definition that I have so that I can be putting out clean energy, so that I can be attracting and using my energy in such an efficient and potent way that I am truly magnetic, that people feel what I have, that they get to borrow that energy from me, that when I have my defined throat and I'm speaking, that people respond to that and they can take inspiration from it. They can take some of what I do and utilize it for themselves. This is how we get to use our chart in a way that guides our business, but does not make it rigid where it has to be a certain way. You get to play with this, but start by looking at what's defined and what's undefined for you. And how are you trying to live out of your openness? How are you trying to push out of your openness? That alone will change the whole way that you approach your business. It's going to save you a lot of energy. It's going to help you get a lot more out of the effort that you're putting out. This is a big part of how you work less and make more, because you stop putting energy where it doesn't hold. You stop trying to be what you're not. That's really what that's about. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you loved this episode and you love this show. If you do, please share this on social media, share it on Instagram and tag me. I'm at Nicole Lano Official. Please leave a review for this show. If you get value from it, that helps us get the word out and helps us get more eyes on this podcast in the search functions. And I will leave you with what I always leave you with, everyone. You are only limited by the limitations that you accept. And when you stop accepting those limitations, that is when you become limitless. So please go out there and be limitless, my friends. I will see you in the next episode. If you loved this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you want to stay in touch with us, we would love to have you as a part of our Facebook community, Practical Manifestors. It's a community for process-driven women looking for clear and actionable steps to embodying a life of wealth and alignment. Join us at Practical Manifestors in Facebook or go to www.innerceogroup.com.